Welcome back to What's Your Story, Episode 2. I am Leilani Langdon, your host, and this is a space where we get to go on a journey with people and their stories so that you can be inspired to know, own, and share your story. And so I'm so excited to be back. If you are jumping on and you are part of the community, go ahead and let me know you're here by saying hi, dropping a hi in the comments. If it's your first time, we are so happy that you've decided to journey with us tonight. Let me know where you're watching from so we can celebrate you and lift you up. And I just want to let you know that our space and this space in the chat is a space for us to encourage and empower. This is a judgment-free zone. We are here to lift up one another, to inspire, to challenge, to empower. And so that's your role. You're not just watching this and taking in the experience, but you're also an active participant. And so I want to invite you to do that. But I'm so excited that we got a chance to connect with Brian last week. It was such a powerful conversation. And I'm excited about today's story because it's all about resilience. So did you know that you have the ability to build resilience? And resilience is really the capacity to recover during a crisis quickly, right? It's how you cope in the midst of crisis. And not all of us can say that we've been resilient in one space or another. But it's interesting because the way that resilience works in the brain is that we can actually build resilience. And one of the ways that we can build it is by daily making sure that we have 3 positive emotions or experiences to 1 negative emotion. So if you have 1 negative experience today, if somebody cut you off in traffic, if you got some bad news, if you got an unexpected bill and now you're feeling upset or frustrated, right? If you got a negative diagnosis. So the goal is that today you then go out and are intentional about having 3 positive experiences. And the more that we do that, it is proven, the research shows that if you can combat your 1 negative experience with 3 positive, that you can build natural resilience in your body so that when you are hit with a crisis, you can become resilient. And so I'm curious to know how you deal with moments of difficulty. But today's story, I'm so excited to have Keila with us. She is just the epitome of resilience and an ability to cope with a really difficult situation. And not just that, but to really thrive, to grow, and to use the experience and her story to build a better future for her and her family. So I can't wait to have her on. I'm going to bring her on right now. And I'm so excited to hear her story. So Keila, hey.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Yes, I'm so excited. We've been trying to do this since last season. Oh my gosh. And we tried, folks, and we tried. So I'm so grateful to you to be willing to do it again and to try to get this going. And we are going to do it. We are going to share your story.
By the grace of God.
Yes, because I know that your story is going to inspire and challenge somebody to be able to push through whatever they're going through. And so tell me, let's just start with telling me a little bit about yourself and then we'll jump in.
Sure. So again, I'm Keila Sanchez. I'm originally from Puerto Rico. I was born in Puerto Rico. My father's Dominican, so I do have to say I am half Dominican, half Puerto Rican.
I'm so bad. He's gonna watch this and be like, "Wait a second, why'd you rep Puerto Rico first?"
So I was raised here in the States. I grew up in the East Coast. My father is a retired pastor, so we grew up, in New York, Massachusetts, Connecticut area.
Nice.
And then, went off to college, came to Andrews University, which is where I met you, a couple years down the road. And where I met I know, just a couple.
We're gonna age ourselves.
Yeah. I know, Samir's 20-year reunion is this weekend. So.
Oh my God. Okay. We ain't gonna go there.
Anyway, so I met my husband here at Andrews. We are still in Michigan after all these years. And we got married back in 2004. We just celebrated 17 years of marriage this summer. So God is good.
Congratulations. Amazing.
Thank you. We have 2 kids. Hasiel is 10, going on 11 next month, and Saila is 7. And so God has blessed us with a small family. And I'm just thankful for the journey that he's put us on. And, I taught for 15 years at Andrews Academy here on the Andrews University campus. Wow. And so my passion still kind of sits in the classroom with, my students. And but God had a plan and just really shifted my life, 7 years ago.
Oh my gosh. So Keila, just leaning right into that intro, tell me, what's your story?
Our story, as I mentioned, started 7 years ago. It was the announcement of, we were about to have a little girl. I mean, we had prayed for a little girl. I had prayed for a little girl. I'm like, Lord, please, and so we were blessed with a little girl, but it was at our ultrasound appointment, that 20-week, that I believe at that moment, it was the Holy Spirit speaking through me. And something said, ask about the baby's heart. And I just kept feeling this, ask about the baby's heart, because, at the ultrasound appointment, they're just checking the baby and making sure all the parts are there. And I remember just blurting out, can you check the baby's heart? Wow. And my husband looks at me and I said, I just want to make sure that the baby's heart's fine. And he, the technician does what they need to do. But it was interesting because this technician actually asked to step out for a few minutes, and she comes back with another technician. And at this time, I'm thinking, oh, now there's two people that want to check my baby.
Right. Okay.
And I'm thinking, whoa. So at the end of the appointment, we were asked to go to the birthing center to meet with one of the doctors there. And so we go around back. We were actually at the hospital here in Lakeland. And they asked us to go into a room, and they closed the door behind us. And I had this feeling like, okay, this is getting a little private and weird. And she asked us to sit down. And now I'm like, I don't want to sit down. Like,
just tell me what you have to tell me.
Yes.
Like, stop putting me in rooms. Like, just.
So this was, again, 20-week appointment. And she just flat out says, I think we have a concern on the baby's heart. And she's like, it could be nothing, but we would like for you to meet with a maternal fetal medicine doctor. Wow. And this is a specialist that, goes in and checks, the baby's heart. And so now we had to wait a whole month to find out what was happening to our growing baby.
Oh my gosh.
And what we did, we didn't tell anybody. We spent this month just trying to take it all in, trying to figure out, was it because I didn't take my vitamins, what?
Oh, right.
I'm thinking, what did I do? But we just prayed and just asked God to really just keep us calm as we journeyed into this new part of my pregnancy, which now turned into a high-risk pregnancy. So we met with that special doctor, and he did confirm at that appointment, it was now pushing to November 2013, that our daughter, Saila, was coming with a heart defect. Wow. But as he kept checking, he's like, there's something more, but I can't tell. So as she continued to grow, things started developing, and they started noticing that there was something way more severe. Mm-hmm. And now they're like, you know what? You need to transition from Bronson Hospital in Kalamazoo to U of M in Ann Arbor.
Wow.
So now I became very high risk, and they were checking me every couple of weeks, doing ultrasounds, checking the baby, checking her growth. And long story short, it was right up until the beginning of, her birth. She was due in April. They pretty much told me to bunker down in Ann Arbor and just kind of wait and see. I was going to be induced at a specific date, which was April 10. But Saila had other plans.
Oh my
She's
gosh.
Like, you know what? I'm not even going to wait for them. She's like, I'm coming out. So April 9, our daughter, the day before, she's like, I'm not waiting.
Oh my
April
gosh.
10th, which was amazing and a miracle in itself. Wow. Because, I was actually in an operating room. All the doctors, there were surgeons, there were cardiologists. I mean, there was a whole medical team. I felt like I was in what's that popular show that everybody watches from the hospital?
Is it Grey's Anatomy? I was gonna say General Hospital, but that's an English soap opera that would date me.
So I felt like I was in, like in a movie or in a show, and everybody's just waiting to see what was going to happen. Oh my gosh. So Saila was born April 9, and the nurse promised me that I could hold her for a brief moment, which was very brief. And she was taken away. And I remember just laying there and thinking, I hope she's okay. I hope she's okay. And so they took her into another room next door. The cardiologists, there was a team there, about 2 or 3 of them, that were just right on it to just check her heart. Wow. A little while later, they kind of wheeled me in because they had put 2 epidurals because she didn't want to come out. So I'm like, I can't move. So they wheeled me over. Yes. Yes, they wheeled me over. She's there. And they turn to me and say, she's doing really great right now. But she is going to need open heart surgery.
Oh my gosh.
Within the next few days. You can take her home, but know that her heart journey will start next week. Oh. And it was just this feeling. I mean, first of all, we were thankful that we could take her home.
Yes.
But we knew in the back of our mind that this was something that we were going to have to endure, this new heart journey with our daughter, and just trying to figure out, what the next steps were.
Right. So
at 12 days old, Saila underwent her first open heart surgery.
Oh my gosh.
And so she had her first open heart. 3 days later, something happened. There were complications as they kept checking her, and they said she's going to have to go back into an emergency open heart. Oh. And I was actually by myself because Samir, he came, he left, he was still teaching, providing for our family, and I'm like trying to figure out what to do. And so when they told me she was going to undergo a second open heart, it was a lot. It was a lot for me, being by myself in the hospital.
Yes.
And thankfully she, survived through the surgery. We actually took her home for a couple days. I think it was 5 days. It was about 2 weeks later, post-surgery. And she caught something they called the rhinovirus and pneumonia. I mean, she got really sick and she was back in the hospital. And this time it was really hard for us because she, as the doctors kept sharing to us, she's in heart failure. And we don't know if she's going to make it. So here we were in, this feeling of like, God, give me the strength that I need as her mother, but please, be with her, give her the strength that she needs to fight through this. Yeah. And let me tell you, this girl is a fighter.
Oh my gosh.
This Saila, being in the hospital with her for what felt like months, God kept, being with her, being with us through this journey. But it was at her third open heart that I remember she was having a hard time breathing. And I turned to her nurse and I said, she's having a really hard time breathing. Is there anything we could do? She's like, her surgery's tomorrow. We just have to wait. And I said, will she make it? And she's like, we just have to wait.
Oh my God.
And I remember sitting, it was around 11 o'clock that night. And I was sitting in a chair next to her bed crying and thinking, Lord, please, I hope she makes it through the night. And I'm there by myself again in her room. It was her ICU room. And I just prayed and I said, God, speak to me, give me the strength that I need.
Yes.
As I'm going through this with our daughter. And I remember hearing this voice said, read the devotional. My father had gifted me a women's devotional titled Breathe. And I just kept hearing this voice, just read today's devotional. And it was June 10th at that time. And I remember opening it up and the title said History 10. And I'm like, I don't want to read about history. Like now I'm being all grumpy. I just need a word of inspiration. I don't want to read about history.
History, right.
And so I just hear another voice, just read it. And so I start reading in this dark room. And I get about 3/4 of the page down. And these words just jump out. And it was, they just really like jump out of the page. And it said, don't worry about tomorrow. I'm already there. Whew. And
I just got goosebumps.
All I remember was I grabbed my phone and I called my husband who was at the Ronald McDonald House, which is where families stay, when there's, an ill child. And I call him and he's not picking up because he's sleeping. And I just wanted to tell him that Saila was going to be okay.
Yeah. Mercy.
And so the next day came and we're wearing our warrior princess t-shirts, mom and dad were super excited. And everybody's looking at us like, your child's about to go into surgery and you guys are super happy. And I'm just like, because at the end of the day, God is in control. I can't do anything apart from praying. Our community was praying. Our church family was praying.
Yes.
My parents had driven 5 hours, from Indianapolis all the way down to be with us in this time.
And how old was she at this time?
She, let's see, it was her third open heart. She was 8 weeks old.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. She was 8 weeks old. Not even 10 pounds.
Oh my God.
And so every time she underwent surgery, we had to sign a paper and, they mentioned all the risks and we just continued to trust that she was in God's hands.
Yes.
But it was a different feeling that day because that night I just felt that God said, again, don't worry about tomorrow. I'm already there. So I was like, she's going to make it. She's going to make it. She's going to get through this. And she did. Praise God. She made it through. She recovered very quickly. And this time around, we actually left the hospital. And because brother, Hasiel, was in school and dad was in school, they're walking germ factories. I'm sorry to put it out there, but, when you're in a classroom, there's just like germs everywhere.
Absolutely.
And what was happening was we had to decide, what are we going to do to keep Saila safe? So we, as a family, decided that I would leave town and stay with my parents for a couple weeks in order to get her ready for her biggest surgery, which was her fourth open heart.
Oh my gosh.
And this would push us into she had to be about 7 months old in order to undergo this very complex surgery.
And what were they trying to do at that surgery? What was happening with her heart?
Yeah, so I failed to mention, but Saila was born with a complex of 4 heart defects. Very, very rare for a child to have so many holes, so many, there was so much happening that they said her heart walls looked like Swiss cheese. There were so many holes. So they could not repair, they couldn't put stuff in it, to fix the heart. So they had to reconstruct her heart.
Wow.
So it's incredible, just the things they can do in this tiny body. So she was now 8 weeks old, undergoing third open heart surgery. So they had to reopen her. She survived that third open heart. Now we were put into a waiting, game of having her heart surgeon, Dr. Romano. She's amazing. She says, I want a big baby, a big, big baby. And I said, I will give you a big baby. And you know what we did? We were making oat milk with oats and putting it in her.
You were like, you go get a chunky baby today. Okay.
And when she saw pictures, she's like, what are you doing? You need to tell all the other moms. I said, this is the Hispanic version of,
It's true. Baby. True. Just put cereal in the milk, in the bottle. It was cereal in the bottle.
So we were giving her oat milk, and man, that girl chunked up so fast.
Oh my, in preparation for this, and what was the significance of this 7-month fourth surgery?
So the surgery was called the Hemi-Fontan. It was the first stage of 2 surgeries, and again, because of Saila's heart condition, she was actually supposed to have only 3 open heart surgeries, which turned into 5 open heart surgeries by her 2nd birthday.
Oh my gosh.
And again, it's something that no parent wants to even think of, and go through because, it took a lot, on our marriage, on our family, but it was, our trust in God and our faith in God that kept us moving through, each part of this journey with Saila. So in preparation for that Hemi Fontan, she got to be 13 pounds on the weight scale. We finally came back home after, spending all this time at my parents' home. And then I get a call shortly before this fourth open heart from, my employer at that time, that my teaching position was being terminated, and it was my last paycheck.
Oh.
And here I'm thinking, I have a sick child. Now I don't have a job. I don't have a salary.
Oh my gosh.
What am I going to do? And I remember going into the human resource department at the university here. And I'm sitting in front of all these people, and they're telling me, your last paycheck is November 17. Saila underwent her fourth open heart November 11, 6 days before. And I'm thinking, what am I going to do? And I remember sitting outside in my car and crying and thinking, God, what can I do? How am I going to tell my husband, first of all?
Right.
I'm like, oh, by the way, I'm not having any more paychecks. And we have $1 million baby because, with all the hospital bills, and he's working, our son's, in preschool. And I just remember when I head home, I said, God, what do you want me to do? I could sit here and be like, whatever. But I knew I needed to do something for my family. Yeah. That's always been my personality. I'm just like, God, what do you want me to do? I can't just sit here and do nothing. But God made a way, and you know how he did it? we were heading to the hospital for one of her appointments prior to the surgery. And I was making, my mom said, make sure to keep her safe. We were heading on the train, and she's like, you got to keep her safe. And I'm thinking, yes, I'll throw a blanket over, over her car seat. But I was like,
we've all done.
Yes. But I was like, but it's going to fall off. I have to carry a car seat. I have bags. So I grabbed some fleece fabric from, my house that I found, and tied it, made a little blanket, a little car seat cover. And it was like reversible. I tied it. I was like, oh, this is cute, And so now I posted it on Facebook, and I tell my friends, to pray for us because we're heading to the hospital. Yes. And one of my friends, like 2 hours later, college friends, says, hey, I love what you made, Saila. Could you make my son one? And I'm like, sure. What do you want? Yes. He's like, I want superheroes. And so now 4 hours later, I get another person, and she's like, oh, I love what you made, Saila. Could you make my daughter one? And I'm thinking, sure. Let me check Google and see how much these car seat covers cost. I don't know how to charge people.
Right.
And within 2 weeks, now it was at, this was the time I was at my parents' house, I had 16 orders of car seat covers. I mean, car seat covers of all things.
Right. Just randomly, because you made one for your daughter and posted it. Oh,
yeah, I posted it. And then now I posted a picture of the one I made for my friend and my other friend. And now people wanted them as baby shower gifts. And people were like, oh, I love what you made, And so this was their way to support us. I did not go public that I had lost my job, but I knew that God was using this avenue. Yes, he was making a way through a car seat cover. And then my daughter, everything was all about Saila. We were traveling so much that she was tube fed, and she was spitting up so much that I was like, I need to make her something so I don't have to change her like 20 times in a day.
Right.
So I made a scarf bib. And now my friends saw pictures, and they're like, oh, I want to support, I would like to buy some. And then I started a line of scarf bibs. My son wanted a scarf bib. I'm like, you're too old for a scarf bib. I'll make I'm like, no.
Listen.
I'm like, I'll make
some
you a scarf.
adults could use a scarf bib,
Yeah.
okay?
I know there's a time for everything.
Yes.
But no, I made him like a little like a neck warmer. I started doing like a kids collection, like a little small fleece scarf like that you could pull and adjust. And then my husband's like, what about me? And I was like, what about you? You know? And then I made him like a neck warmer because he was, you know, an elementary teacher and, you know, it was winter, cold. So then guess what? I was making stuff for everybody. And then one day my friend comes over and she's like, Keila, you're making stuff for everybody. What about moms? And I'm like, what about moms? You know, like, what do you want me to do? And she just planted. And again, God used her in that very moment because I sat in my living room and I thought, what could I do? So here's now my brain thinking, now that I'm selling all these little things that are helping with our daughter's medical bills, I'm thinking, what could I do for moms? That's a one size fits all. I didn't want to deal with sizes,
right?
You know,
Smart.
that women, you know, love to wear, something, maybe I'm solving a problem. So here I'm starting to think as an entrepreneur, wait, what could I do to solve a problem?
Right.
And you know what my brain thought was, well, what do women love? Scarves. I'm like, I love scarves. I collect them, you know.
Anybody who really knows me knows that fall is my favorite season because I have a scarf for every outfit. Like, it is just what it is.
And that's what I did. That's how I started thinking. I was like, but wait, I don't want to compete against Walmart and, you know, all these stores, you know, neighborhood stores. Right. I said, what could I do that could be different? So I designed my first 3-button scarf in Saila's ICU room, actually.
What?
Yep. I started, wow. So actually I started buying some fabrics, some, you know, flannels and fleece. And I was actually sewing the buttons in her ICU room. And when I had breaks and my husband and I would switch on and off from the Ronald McDonald House, I would go over there. I brought my sewing machine.
And to the Ronald McDonald House.
Yes. I would be in a corner and people would be looking at me. I'm like, don't worry about me. I'm just doing my thing. You know, I was making the first scarf collection in a Ronald McDonald's house in an ICU room, taking pictures in the bathroom of like how to wear them in the bathroom.
Stop. Were you doing selfies in the mirror of the bathroom?
Yes. People, you know, so people could see, you know, these are all the ways you can wear this 3-button scarf, you know?
Oh my gosh. That's amazing.
And so November 24, so it was actually shortly after her 4th open heart was when I launched my first 3-button scarf. And within weeks they sold.
Oh my God.
And I just now found this passion and excitement for working with fabric. And I was watching YouTube videos on how to make, you know, sew buttons and
did you know how to sew before this?
You know, my grandmother, she was a professional seamstress. I would watch her, you know, and play around with fabric, but I'm what they call a self-taught, you know, designer because I was teaching myself. And so that's how it all started. I started making everything from her hospital room. And yeah.
Wow. That's absolutely amazing because while your daughter is literally healing and, you know, parents who've experienced hospital stays with their children, right? You don't often hear about those long hours where you're literally sitting, right?
Yes. We're sitting, we're looking out the window, we're seeing the seasons change. Well, that was me. You know, I could see the seasons changing because we spent over 8 months in the hospital with Saila.
Oh my gosh.
And her ICU room, the pediatric cardiothoracic intensive care unit is the whole name,
That's a lot.
of her ICU room, was on the 10th and 11th floor. So here I am at the University of Michigan overlooking, you know, downtown. And I mean, it was my view. The longest stretch that we spent in the hospital physically with her, I had to tally in my phone because I lost track of the days. I had not stepped
Wow.
outside for over 3 weeks.
Wow.
She was in the hospital. The longest stretch was 56 days.
Oh my
how to make, sew buttons and
Did you
how
know
to make
how to sew before this?
My grandmother, she was a professional seamstress. I would watch her, and play around with fabric, but I'm what they call a self-taught, designer, because I was teaching myself. And so that's how it all started. I started making everything from her hospital room. And yeah.
Wow, that's absolutely amazing, because while your daughter is literally healing, and parents who've experienced hospital stays with their children, right? You don't often hear about those long hours where you're literally sitting, right?
Yes. We're sitting, we're looking out the window, we're seeing the seasons change. Well, that was me. I could see the seasons changing because we spent over 8 months in the hospital with Saila.
Oh my gosh.
And her ICU room, the pediatric cardiothoracic intensive care unit is the whole name,
That's a lot.
of her ICU room, was on the 10th and 11th floor. So here I am at the University of Michigan, overlooking, downtown. And I mean, it was my view. The longest stretch that we spent in the hospital physically with her, I had to tally in my phone because I lost track of the days. I had not stepped outside for over 3 weeks. She was in the hospital. The longest stretch was 56 days without physically leaving. And then the 8 months was just a back and forth, with, procedures, surgeries, just, all the stuff that went with, her heart journey. But it was during that time, as you shared, it's like, what do we do with our time? I'm like, I'm looking out the window,
Yes.
I am reading my Bible. I am talking to other parents, on the floor. Sabbaths, I had a chance to, I was in church at that time because, I was in the hospital for so long.
Right.
But I was able to use this time to really connect with God and just look for Him on a more intentional level, pray more, to praise. I would sing lots of, coritos, to Saila, little songs. And,
yes.
I love talking to the cleaning staff. They would say, how are you so happy? How can you smile, through this? Because people thought that, because the child was sick, because the child was in the ICU, that, there had to be, I almost felt like people almost had this thing of like, there had to be complete silence. You couldn't praise, you couldn't. Yes. And, the way I felt was like, let's bring joy into this room. Let's bring, a sense of happiness.
Yes.
We had, Saila had all kinds of music therapy. People would come in and read to her. There was a lady who would play the guitar, and her favorite song was "You Are My Sunshine," which Saila means sunshine in Arabic. So that was her favorite song and mine. I'm like, can you sing it again? And we would just, take this time that we had with her to just let her know that we were there.
Yes,
and God was there.
Yes,
the presence, the touch. There were so many times that we would walk up and down, her ICU floor and see so many kids alone. And all I would do is like, just pray for them. I'm like, God, please, care for this child.
Yes.
Because it's hard. I know some people as parents, it's hard to see your child,
Absolutely.
with all of this, stuff just coming out, their body, everything's attached. And it, it gave me a tough skin. I will say I can deal with things now that I didn't think I could deal.
Of
like
course.
I could pull my kids' teeth now. I could do things that I didn't think I could do before.
Of course. But it's just so beautiful to hear this, almost like, these two worlds almost colliding and melding, right? This world where you're inspired as a result of trying to solve a problem for your daughter to now create something for other people and bring joy while your daughter's recovering and trying to really fight for her life.
Yes.
Right. And so these it's almost like there was strength in the joy that God was giving you and the peace, and also what he was inspiring you to do. So you're sewing this scarf in the ICU.
Yes.
You're modeling in the ICU bathroom.
Actually, you want to hear something funny? One of her nurses was a model that I used.
Stop. I love it.
I'm like, can I ask you for a favor?
You have a beautiful neck. Can you?
I did. It was a male nurse. I said, you have a nice long neck. Can I use your neck? And he's like, sure. So let me tell you the experience I had with the nurses, with the staff, as they saw what I was doing in the hospital. They were amazed. They were actually supporting me and buying some of my pieces too.
My goodness.
And, when I first started, so I haven't even said the brand name.
Yeah, I was about to ask you. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it was actually during Saila's 4th open heart that I came up with the brand name, which is now called KozySaila.
Okay.
And the reason why I gave it the name KozySaila was because I wanted everything to be, warm and to bring that warmth, that sunshine, because Kozy and Saila means warm sunshine. So and then our motto is wearable art to save a heart. And so I wanted to create something that people could wear and also know that this is her story. You are wearing, you're supporting her journey. You're wearing a little bit, it's like our story was woven into these pieces. Yes. And now you get to carry this story with you wherever you go.
That's so
and
powerful.
people would always be like, oh my goodness, so it's kind of like the red carpet. Who are you wearing? And it's like, oh, this is KozySaila. Like, who's that?
Right. Well, let me tell you.
Let me tell you. But that's how it all started. It was just a way to help. Again, number one, help with our medical bills, bring awareness to congenital heart disease, which affects 1 in 100 to 110 kids.
Wow, that's a lot.
It is a lot. It's the number one birth defect. And so here I was as, almost like an advocate, just like really sharing our story, but also bringing awareness to this cause.
Yes.
Which took us to the next level. I was actually invited to be a speaker at a Ronald McDonald House charity event.
Wow.
And it was actually at that event that I was asked to bring some of my scarves. And you know what it turned into? My first fashion show.
What?
I pulled people from the audience. I would like scope people out. I'm like, ooh, this scarf would look good on her. This scarf. And you know what?
My goodness.
I made my first fashion show here at this Ronald McDonald's House charity event. I'm telling you, it was just like, let's go.
Right. Like almost like the innovation, the resilience, the ability to just be like, kind of think on your feet and move.
Actually, it was funny because one of those first models I could call from my first fashion show, which was on a miniature scale.
Right.
I just saw this summer, and she's like, I still have your scarf. And I'm like, that was like 7 years ago. Let me fix it for you because, it needs a little work. And they're like, no, it's fine. I was like, I've grown a little bit in my designs, but yeah, it's been 7 years since it all started.
So where is Saila's heart journey now? And then tell me a little bit about how you've now been inspired as a result of that story to continue to live in your passion and purpose.
So Saila is now 7 years old.
Oh.
Praise God. She just started first grade.
Hey!
Yes, she loves her friends in her class, her teacher. She's learning to read. She's sassy. She's helpful, happy. She brings so much joy. I mean, this girl wakes up and you would think that she went to bed with a smile and woke up with a smile. I mean, she's just such a happy girl. And, with everything she's been through, and, she's currently living with only function of half of her heart.
Wow.
And this is something that came after her last open heart surgery. It was very clear that because of all the reconstruction they had to do, she would only have function of half of it.
Wow.
And so here's this girl in soccer. She started soccer this season. She's like, Mommy, I want to play soccer. I was like, you know what? I will let you play soccer. You can do it. And we're just letting her, live a normal life. Just letting her kind of set those limits. We're in the back, just kind of watching her.
Of course.
Like Saila, you got to slow down.
Right.
Drink some water. But we are thankful that even through this journey, God has blessed her with life. She's thriving. She's growing. She's a head taller than all of her classmates.
A half a heart is not going to stop her. Okay.
Yes. She's just an amazing little girl, and we're just blessed that, God has entrusted her, into our hands, into our life as a family. And, as I mentioned, she's 7 in first grade, and as time has gone on, I've started to, expand on the brand, the KozySaila brand. And it was actually in 2018, as I kept designing. I mean, I was like, you know what, baby stuff, I'm going to push you off to the side because I'm loving this mama journey right now.
Hey, yes.
I loved working, being able to make moms feel good, wearing something, making them look stylish and just feel good, and bring a little joy. And so that was now my new journey. I was now reaching moms. I was reaching some men in between,
Sure.
Yes, they loved the style. And it was actually in 2018, I actually got into the Etsy marketplace and sold some scarves there, and then got on Instagram because, that was the new social media thing. I'm like, fine, I will do it.
Follow the trend.
Yes. Started hashtagging. And then one day I stumbled across a website because now I want to start getting fashion magazines because I'm starting to, feel like, I'm into the fashion world now. And I filled out an application for emerging designers for New York Fashion Week. Okay. And crazy old me, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to fill it out. Whatever happens. I called my husband. I was like, hey, guess what I did? He's like, what? I was like, I just filled out an application for New York Fashion Week. He's like, you did what? I'm like, I know it's crazy, but you know what? You got to take the first step.
Yes.
And within that week, I get an email and I get asked, have you done a fashion show? Remember what I shared earlier? I did one. I could say yes. Yes. I did a small one.
We don't need to talk about the details, but yes, I did do one.
It's on YouTube somewhere, but I did a small one. And then they started asking me more questions, but it was that initial, did you do a fashion show? Thankfully, the Ronald McDonald's House charity event came, brought this to life. And I received another email being invited to New York Fashion Week.
What? From this application?
From this application. And I'm sitting in my office. I was still teaching. I actually went back to teaching after about a year and a half, with Saila's journey.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sitting in my office and I'm looking at this email and I'm screaming and I'm crying and I'm like, I can't believe this is happening. Like, all I did was fill out the application thinking, yeah, they're not going to, I'm in Berrien Springs. Like,
right. This little town, literally with like one stoplight.
Yes. So I say yes. And I'm like, I am honored. I would love to. But I forgot to look at the date. And I called my mom and I was like, Mom, oh my goodness, can't believe what just happened. I was just invited to New York Fashion Week. She's like, wow, mamita, qué bueno. And then she's like, oh, by the way, when's the date? And I was like, let me check. And then when I checked the calendar, it was actually a Saturday. Okay. And she's like, Keila, you know what you need to do? And I said, yeah, I know, Mom. And then I'm like, God, what just happened? Like,
well, tell us why that's significant, because someone may not understand that.
Sure. So we are Seventh-day Adventists, and we keep our Sabbath day holy, and it's our day of worship. Mm-hmm. And on this Sabbath, because the show was happening on Saturday, and this is my day of worship, it was going to, kind of overlap or contradict. It was not, part of my belief system to put on a show or do any work on Sabbath. So my mom said, Keila, you need to pray. God knows why. Él sabe el por qué. So what did we do? We spent the next 24 hours praying, and I was like, God, show me. What do you want me to do? What is happening? Number one, you just opened a door for New York Fashion Week.
And I really want to do this.
But it's on Saturday, and I know you are testing me. So within 24 hours, we kept praying, and I woke up the next morning, and I get an email from the same company, and it's a New York agency, and they said, Keila, there was a miscommunication with the design team. The spot that has opened up is for Paris Fashion Week, not New York Fashion Week. Wait. There's a date. I need to check the date. It said February 27. When I jumped on my phone and I was like, before I get too excited, it was a Thursday at 1 p.m.
In Paris.
Oh
my gosh. They're like, God was like, let's just skip New York. Let's just forget about New York. Let's just jump to Paris.
God's like, you know what? I don't want you in New
Oh
York
my God.
I want you to cross the world at one of Paris is the number one.
Right.
Mecca
Fashion Week.
Fashion Week. And here I was invited. And I screamed and I turned to my husband. I was like, I'm going to Paris. And he's like, what? What's happening? Right. I was like, okay, let me backtrack. So in February of 2019, we were on the runway for Paris Fashion Week.
That's amazing.
With 27 other designers. And here I was with my scarves as an accessory designer from Berrien Springs, Michigan.
Who started in an ICU room. Hey, look at God.
Look at God. And the journey continued. We appeared in 10 magazines after that show. Wow. I started a website to now streamline our designs as people kept, asking, where can I purchase one of your scarves? We were invited back to New York. We did a show in 2020. So last year, I did a holiday show out there. And then most recently in March, we just did LA Fashion Week.
Hey.
And, so God has been, he's been opening doors, but what's funny in all of this, even though I'm sharing about the scarves, there came a point with the pandemic that I said, okay, God, what do you want me to do now? Because I don't see people wearing a scarf in a Zoom meeting.
Is appropriate anymore, right?
I'm like, nobody's going anywhere.
Right.
So he used one of my friends again, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to do my part. I took a pile of scarves, plopped them on my table, flipped the switch on my machine, and I said, okay, God, I'm going to do my part and you do yours.
Mm-hmm.
And I get a text from a friend like, Keila, there's about to be a shortage of masks in the hospital.
Yeah, at the beginning,
She's,
yes.
This was a year ago. And she's like, they're not as fancy as your scarves. But she's like, I thought you should know just in case you want to make some.
Right.
And I said, thank you. I appreciate it. And I remember pausing and thinking, wait a minute. Every time something is about to shift, you know, a friend kind of comes into play and God has been using and I said, okay, God, if this is what you want me to do, then let's do it together. So in the next 48 hours, I made 60 face masks for Lakeland Hospital here locally, delivered to 3 different units.
Wow.
I posted that Sunday on social media what this little mission project was all about. And the post went viral. There were over 500 shares on Facebook.
Oh my gosh.
There was like 60,000 people were engaged. And I'm thinking, what is happening? And then now I start getting messages. Please, can you make some for my family? Please, can you send a mask to my daughter in New Jersey and New York? And I had so many requests for face masks that people were now wanting to purchase that I didn't know what to do.
Oh my God.
And so I prayed and I said, God, show me what's next. So what did I do? I went on Facebook, did a live, and I said, you know what? If you guys want a face mask, you know, I will be selling some. Just let us know. Girl, my phone wouldn't stop. Text messages, gosh. Facebook, PayPal, Venmo, Cash App, you name it. People were like, I want
yes. And you're like.
And I'm like, what do I do? Within 2 to 3 weeks of that, God brought on a marketing lady to help me, you know, with the business. And it was just the perfect timing to just organize the brand. And we streamlined now to the website. The day we launched on the website, are you ready? No. We were live. We're like, okay, we are officially live. Our face masks are on the website. That first week, we had over 800 orders.
Oh my gosh.
800
orders. That doesn't mean like one order could have been like 5 or 10 masks. Like
20, 30.
800 orders. Oh my God.
And you know how many people were on my team at that time? Just 2. Myself and my marketing lady. And so now I'm thinking, okay, God,
how?
Thanks, but how am I going to do this? So I kept praying. I'm like, Lord, I need help.
Yes.
Please help me. So he helped me build a team of 16 women in our community.
16.
My husband was driving all over this county, delivering boxes. I was cutting all the masks at home with the fabrics I had that I was ordering, elastic. And now he was delivering to women's homes as I was training them via, Zoom meetings, FaceTime. And now we were, producing close to 300 masks a day as a team.
Oh my goodness.
And shipping all over the nation. And this summer, we reached all 50 states.
Oh my gosh, that's insane.
It is. I mean, it was just like nonstop. But again, this is the God we serve. He took this small mission project that I started. He took this time of crisis that we were all living in.
And pain and ugh.
Yes. And he said, you know what? Let's take it to another level. Let's build a team. Let's build a team of women. These were women who were praying and saying, God, how can I provide for my family? And here I was saying, God, I need help.
I need women.
I need women. And they're like, I've made pillowcases and curtains. I said, I'll take you. I will train you. And that's how it started. I became a mask maker. Now I am a mask designer, and one of my popular designs now is a pop-up, that sits away from your mouth so you can breathe and talk.
Yes. Can I say that is so helpful? Okay, especially for the kids.
Yes.
Our kids rock their KozySaila masks,
Yeah.
and they love them. Okay, especially with the little lanyards, they're amazing.
Yes. Yeah, it keeps it together.
Man, Keila, you know what? It's absolutely amazing. Your story is amazing, and I've had goosebumps so many times while you've been sharing it because the biggest things that keep coming to me, and as I hear you talk, it's really powerful to see somebody exemplifying and living out a life where they are literally relying on God for every step. I mean, so many times you ask the question, God, what do you want me to do? Right? You are faced with an obstacle. You were faced with pain. You were faced with uncertainty. And instead of trying to control the situation and trying to do it everything on your own, you're like, okay, God, what do you want me to do? Right?
Yes.
What's next? Right? And not just that, now God would bless you with something. And instead of going like, woo, I got it from here. I've made it. Let me go do it on my own. You're like, all right, God, what do you like? How? Thank you for praise you for the success. Now, how do I do it? And it speaks so much to how you've been able to not just overcome such a difficult time in your life, but thrive, grow, and bless others as a result and evolve. Literally, like over and over, you're just evolving. You're just willing to make changes, not letting fear keep you from moving forward. And that is such a beautiful lesson and example that we don't often see.
And I'll add something to that, because when I started making face masks, people were looking at me like, oh my goodness, like, you're making this $10 product, and it was a humbling experience, because I started this mission project, and that's what it was. It was a mission project. Honestly, I didn't think it would go far. But here I am still making face masks. That is what I do. I've made a couple scarves here and there, but it's the face mask, because I have found that God has been using my business and my brand to help our community, and so here now I feel that He has put me in a place where I'm providing a service. I'm providing a service that is now helping people. I'm helping them breathe. I'm helping them transition into the workforce. I'm helping the kids go back to school and be able to talk and be around their friends and not feel like they're suffocating behind a mask, or they're not losing them because of the lanyards, they're there and they're attached.
Yes.
So I see that, God has been giving me, these opportunities that, as people, as humans, we have to be open for change. If we want to grow, we need to be open for change. And let me tell you, the pandemic was an eye-opener. I had taken the leap of faith and left my salary job, because God said it was time. It was time. And so I'm thinking, all right, what is it time for? But I felt it was time, and He made it clear it was time to pursue the business full time. But, there were people at the beginning that said, Keila, be careful. This is the fashion industry. And I'm thinking, yeah, there's industries and everything. But they were trying to tell me, there's a different vibe when it comes to fashion. And you see it out there. You see it in social media.
Sure.
But here was my chance to show that I am different.
Yes.
And let me tell you, when I was in Chicago Fashion Week, when I've been, LA Fashion Week, and I've been to Paris Fashion Week, people look at me and see something different. And they tell me up front, they're like, you're different, And, I carry myself different. I'm not at the after parties. I'm not drinking champagne and toasting and celebrating like everyone else. I'm on the side eating pizza and drinking Sprite.
Well, then your spirit and your joy, right? There's just a natural, because, and here's what's powerful, but that your joy and your decision to move forward in this space is not because of you, right? It's rooted in something bigger, right? It's rooted in God. It's rooted in who you know is holding your future and who's creating it for you, literally,
and
literally creating it for you.
And that's something as Christian, as people, that we need to remember, that we can claim it. Every day I'm like, by the grace of God, I will be successful. Like, why not?
I love that.
Why should I settle for anything less?
Yes.
And so, and I always say, God, I trust in you. I believe that, there's so much fear.
Yes.
There's so much fear sometimes that holds us back. But I was like, I will not be afraid. I'll believe. I believe in you, that you're gonna, push me forward and make a way. And
he's done just that. Keila, thank you so much for sharing your story. I have been inspired myself to move forward and to constantly ask God, what do you want me to do? And to trust in his constant hold over my life. And so thank you so much for sharing. We're going to be sharing all her information, her Instagram and her website, where you can find these amazing masks. And if you want some scarves, because fall's coming, they're there too.
They're coming.
But thank you so much for inspiring us today. I'm going to send you backstage, and then I'm going to close this out. Thank you so much. Bye. Guys, I'm blown away. I mean, I am inspired to do different. I know for me, sometimes it's so hard to get stuck on the how, right? I feel like I'm supposed to be doing something, and I may have a vision or a picture of what that is, but I get stuck on the how, or what are people going to think, or the fear that comes with what if I fail, and all those what ifs constantly keep me and keep us from walking in the direction that we're supposed to walk in, for not just us, but for the people that we're supposed to impact. And so today, I hope you are encouraged and inspired by her story to move forward in faith, to ask, what am I supposed to do? To be willing to constantly evolve, and to not let the difficulties of our lives get in the way of bringing joy to the people around us. I'm so excited to have you join us next week as we sit down with Eileen Harris to hear her beautiful journey. And so I want to invite you to come back. As always, you can support the show by sharing on our social media platforms. You can share this video, make sure people watch it, take it in, so that they too can be inspired. You can support by subscribing to the YouTube channel, Leilani Langdon, where we share the What's Your Story show live each week, or you can donate to What's Your Story live on Cash App to continue to support this platform. But anyway, guys, I can't wait to see you next week. And as always, I want to remind you that your purpose is found in knowing, owning, and sharing your story. So the question is, are you ready to share your story? See you next time.